There are different ways. See, basically, there are three ways in which we gain knowledge. One is called pratyaksha praman, empirical way of understanding knowledge through our senses. We see something, we know something exists. We taste something, we understand it exists. So the word pratyaksha literally refers to but anything which is directly connected to the senses. That's called pratyaksha. So that is one way in which we gain knowledge. The second way in which we gain knowledge is through anuman, rationality of our intelligence. For example, there's a live wire, electricity wire. Now, how do you know that there is flow of electrons going through it? You can't see electrons, can you? You can't. But how do you understand that the flow of electrons is going through it? You touch it, you get an electric shock, and through inference, anuman. Now, this is a perfect experiment based on empiricism and rationality.
Preconceived notions. Pranam Prabhuji. We are back at our wonderful place at Alibag now.
Yes.
Yeah, post monsoon. So it's green and green and green, and some pieces of red all over.
Yeah.
So Prabhuji, we ended last time at chapter 6 really. And chapter 6, one of the things we understood was different forms of meditation. Yeah, do this, sit here and do this and not do that really. So that was one of the key things of chapter 6. And the other thing we learned in chapter 6 really was the difference between what a yogi does and what a sannyasi does, and the details of what exactly, who is a sannyasi really. That's what we really discussed about. So let's move on to chapter 7. But before we move on to chapter 7, I'd like you to, get back and, reconstruct the 18 chapters of the Gita. Right at the beginning, you had mentioned that the first 6 chapters talk about one aspect, and then you get into the meat in the next 6 chapters. And the final 6 chapters really are the perilogue. So if you could just probably spend some time on that before you get on to chapter 7, really.
Yeah. There are 18 chapters in the Bhagwad Gita. So the first 6 chapters, they are technically called Karma Yoga. Middle 6 chapters are technically called Bhakti Yoga. And the last 6 chapters are Gyan Yoga. So the first 6 chapters, they give us an understanding of what should be the goal. In the sense that how to exactly move towards transcendence. From being an ordinary materialistic person, how to become spiritual, and what is the goal of spirituality. That is explained in the first 6 chapters. So Karma Yoga, and how, it's called the yoga ladder a lot of time.
Yeah, the various aspects of Karma Yoga itself.
Karma Yoga, and then Jnana, and then Dhyana.
Yeah.
Like that. How do you go from one step to the next, to the next, to the next? That's explained in the first 6 chapters. So the middle 6 chapters, they give us an understanding of what actually lies at the end of the ladder.
So what is all this build up for? Ultimately.
What's in store for us?
Correct.
So that the life of the soul in connection with God is explained in the middle 6 chapters of the Gita. That's what Bhakti Yoga is all about. That at the top of this ladder, what awaits us. And the last 6 chapters, they give us an understanding of what's pulling us back from climbing up this ladder.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So the first 6 chapters is the ladder itself. Middle 6 chapters gives us an understanding of what lies ahead of the ladder, on top of the ladder, and what's pulling us down.
What are the detriments to reaching there, really?
Reaching there. That is explained in the last 6 chapters. And in the last 6 chapters, there is an understanding of the 3 gunas. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The word guna, it means qualities. See, in psychology, there are different ways in which personalities are categorized.
Mm-hmm.
There's introversion, extroversion, like that. So similarly, in the Vedas, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is this concept of the gunas.
Mm.
The person who is in Sattva Guna has a certain kind of a personality, a person in Rajo Guna has a certain kind of personality, and similarly with Tamo Guna.
The lazy and the active and the peaceful.
Yeah, the lazy, the active, and the peaceful.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So this understanding is given, and the word guna also means rope.
Mm.
So because of these qualities, because of sattva, rajas, and tamas, these are things that keep us bound within this world.
Mm.
And a detailed analysis of the three gunas is given in the last 6 chapters. Because the more we understand what is binding us to this world, the more we can think in terms of how we can liberate ourselves from these ropes.
Mm. Mm. So that's back to the detriments to achieving the middle 6 pieces, really.
Yes.
Mm.
See, this is the overview of the 18 chapters of the Gita. So we are through with the first 6
So 1/3
chapters.
is over now.
1/3 is
Is
over.
over. Yeah.
So we have got an understanding of this ladder. What are the different rungs of this ladder, so to speak,
Mm.
Now, the middle 6 chapter is really going to explain to us what's on top of this ladder.
Mm.
Correct? Now, when we had discussed the last section of the 6th chapter, I had left out one last verse of the 6th chapter,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
remember.
Mm. Correct.
So, in that last verse of the 6th chapter, Krishna explains. Now, the 6th chapter is called Gyan Yoga.
Yes.
So, in the last verse of the 6th chapter, Krishna explains who is the highest yogi.
Mm.
Correct? So, he says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo matah. Yoginam api sarvesham, of all the yogis, who is the highest yogi? Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana.
Mm.
Of all the yogis, that yogi who is always absorbed in me within the core of his or her heart,
Mm.
Shraddhavan, with faith,
Faith, yes, belief.
with belief, and bhajate yo mam, and with an attitude of service. Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam, same yukta tamo mata. Such a yogi I consider to be the highest yogi.
Mm.
So basically, the last verse of the 6th chapter says that the highest yogi is somebody who is a bhakti yogi.
Yeah, who's drowned in me, sort of.
Yes, who's absorbed in me.
Totally absorbed in me, yes.
With total faith, absorption, and immersed in me.
Mm.
Such a person. And then, so this is the highest yogi. Now, how to reach this platform of yoga,
Mm.
correct, which Krishna is described in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Krishna is going to start explaining from the first verse of the 7th chapter.
I see. Okay.
So here, the first verse of the 7th chapter begins with Maya saktaham anapartha yogam yunjan madashraya asamshayam samagram mam yata jnasasi tatshrunu. Now, in the last verse of the 6th chapter, Krishna says that the highest yogi is somebody who is
Immersed in me.
immersed in it.
Correct.
In order to be immersed in somebody, one has to be attached to that person. So in the 7th chapter, Krishna begins to explain how to asakta mana, how the mind can become attached to Krishna, how can the mind become attached to God.
Mm.
Maya sakta mana partha yogam yunjan madashrayaha asamshayam samagram mam yata jnasasi tashrunu. How to understand God. In order to become attached to God, one has to first understand God.
Mm.
Asamshayam. Freed from doubt, one has to understand God.
Mm.
One should have a thorough understanding of God. And how do you gain a thorough understanding of God? Yata jnasasi tachrunu. I am going to explain this to you. Tachrunu. Hear from me.
I see.
So Krishna is going to explain the science of himself
Hmm.
in the 7th chapter now. Now, what is relevant here is the word tachrunu here. Now, in the Vedic paradigm, or even in ordinary parlance, how do we gain knowledge? There are different ways. See, basically, there are 3 ways in which we gain knowledge. One is called pratyaksha praman.
Mm-hmm. Right in front.
Pratyaksha is,
Physical.
yeah, in the sense that empirical way of understanding knowledge through our senses.
Mm-hmm.
We see something, we know something exists.
Correct.
We taste something, we understand it exists.
Hmm.
Correct. This pratyaksha.
Correct.
So the word pratyaksha literally refers to the sight, but anything which is directly connected to the senses,
Hmm.
that's called pratyaksha.
Hmm.
So that is one way in which we gain knowledge.
Hmm.
For example, that you are here, that you exist right in front of me, that I understand through pratyaksha.
Yes.
I'm seeing it,
Correct.
so I have the knowledge that you're sitting right here.
Correct.
It's called pratyaksha praman. The second way in which we gain knowledge is through anuman, rationality of our intelligence.
I see.
For example, there's a live wire, electricity wire. Now, how do you know that there is flow of electrons going through it? You can't see electrons, can you? You can't. But how do you understand that the flow of electrons is going through it? You touch it, you get an electric shock, and through inference, anuman,
yeah, estimate.
It's like analysis.
Yeah.
You may not be able to see directly, but through analysis you infer. It's for example Rutherford's gold foil experiment, if you remember.
Yes.
About the atomic structure.
Yeah. When the foil splits apart.
I'm not really sure.
Disaggregates from the electrode.
So yeah, the electrode, when it is put through the gold foil, it deviates.
Correct. Yes.
And through that he inferred that most of the atom is empty except for a dense nucleus. So this is inference. He's not able to see the atom pratyaksha.
Correct.
But he is analyzing it. It's anuman.
Correct.
Through analysis. So this second way in which we gain knowledge. That which we cannot directly pursue through the senses, we understand it through the rationality of our intelligence. This is called anuman praman. And the third way in which we gain knowledge is through shabda. We hear and we understand.
Belief.
Correct. We believe, we hear from an authoritative source and we accept it. This is called shabda praman.
That's back to the Guru Parampara piece, really.
Yeah, along the same line. So these are the 3 broad ways in which we gain knowledge. Now, when it comes to gaining an understanding of God, who is beyond the perception of our senses, who is beyond the rationality of our intelligence, we have to rely on shabda. Or in the analogy that we drew regarding climbing up the ladder. Now that you're just climbing up the ladder, what's beyond the ladder, you can't see it as of now.
You can only imagine it.
You can only understand through sources who have already been there.
Correct.
You rely on somebody who has already seen it and that then transmits that knowledge to you. So this is the shabda way of gaining knowledge. Now, in the modern day world, when we speak about shabda, this way of receiving knowledge, people really aren't very thrilled. People like to believe that they want to gain knowledge through empiricism or rationality.
Touch and feel. Experience.
And also what you can figure it out.
But that's more of realized knowledge then, isn't it? When you actually experienced it, either through your senses or through your rational thinking.
Yeah, see, within the material realm, we can gain substantial amount of knowledge through rationality and empiricism.
Yes.
But when it comes to spiritual subject matters, we have to rely on shabda. But then, even when it comes to material subject matters, our reliance on empiricism and rationality is oftentimes overemphasized. It's oftentimes overemphasized. Our reliance on empiricism and rationality. I'll give you an example here. Now, modern science is predominantly based on empiricism and rationality. Rational empiricism, as they call it. And I'll give you a social experiment, an example of a social experiment to just show how rationality and empiricism is coming into play here.
Mm.
So there was this social experiment that was performed at the Utrecht train station in the Netherlands.
Utrecht, yeah.
So this particular study was published in many scientific journals by a reputed professor called Dr. Didrik Stapel.
Mm-hmm.
So this experiment was widely published. Now this paper explains how this experiment was performed. That in this particular train station, it's a small train station, there are rows of chairs. In first part of the experiment, the train station was clean. And in the second part of the experiment, the train station was dirty because there was a workers' strike. So in both parts of the experiment, what was done was, in those rows of chairs that were kept in the train station, the first chair of each row, it was occupied by a black volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, after the black volunteers occupied the first seat of each row, then there were a lot of commuters, and most of the commuters were white. They were asked to fill up a questionnaire. And in order to fill up a questionnaire, they had to occupy one of the other chairs now. They can't just remain standing. So they were told to occupy one of those chairs to fill up the questionnaire. So in the first part of the experiment, when the station was clean, it was found that these white commuters, they tended to sit closer to the black volunteers. And in the second part of the experiment, when the station was dirty, these white commuters, they tended to sit far from the black volunteers.
I see.
So now you're observing something here. That is empiricism. And using your observation, then you're coming to an inference. That is anuman. Rational inference you're going to come to based on your empirical evidence. And the natural conclusion that was reached, according to the paper that was published, was that because in the first part of the experiment, the environment was clean, the white commuters tended to sit closer,
yeah.
and the second part, they tended to sit farther. It was inferred that unclean environment tends to bring out racist tendency amongst individuals.
I see.
Now, this is a perfect experiment based on empiricism and rationality.
Preconceived notions.
Yeah. But there is a fundamental flaw in this. And what is that?
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess that?
No. It doesn't come straight to my mind.
It seems to be too perfect.
Correct.
Right? Because based on empiricism and rationality. But the problem with this particular experiment was, it was never performed.
I see.
It was simply published in the paper. It was...
Oh my God. I couldn't have caught that.
So,
and everyone agreed to it.
See, the point here is, we tend to believe it because it's coming from an authoritative source.
A, and B, it sort of fits into our preconceived notions. That's how it must have been.
It must have been. And because somebody, see, the entire experiment is fabricated here. Nothing really happened. Nothing really happened. So, Dr. Didrik Stapel, he sat in his cabin, imagined something and put it forth. And because it's coming from him, we
presume that it is appropriate. He's done the right things.
Yeah, he has done the right thing. First of all, he has done it. See, the point I'm trying to make here is, even in the field of science, at the end of the day,
who is giving the information is very important.
We rely on Shabda only.
Yeah.
See, we like to believe that we are empiricists or rational people. But how much of the information that we gain can we personally verify?
Correct.
Most of the information that we gain, we are accepting it because we are we are accepting an authority in
Correct.
that particular field.
It's back to like Einstein's equal to MC square. Who's seen it? I have not seen it, but it's coming from him. So you think it is authoritative and it is right.
And you believe it.
And you believe it, yes.
See, that is why even in common parlance, even in the field of science, we rely on belief.
Yeah.
How much of the things that we believe do we have the privilege of personally verifying?
Verifying. Yeah, you don't really. Yeah.
We don't really. So the point here is, when it comes to accepting an authority, we need to do it very carefully. But once we accept an authority, we have little choice but to start believing it. See, we were speaking about Rutherford's gold foil experiment a few minutes ago. The first time I heard it, I think I was in 5th standard or something like that. So in 5th standard, if I tell the teacher that I'll believe in Rutherford's gold foil experiment, only
when
if
I
you
see
show me, I'll remain in 5th standard forever. So I have to believe in my teacher. See, especially in the beginning of any journey, you have to believe.
Correct.
And then, as you progress along those fields, then you'll have more opportunity to use empiricism, more opportunity to use rationality also.
Or to check the veracity as you progress.
Yeah, as you progress. But in the beginning,
you have to start with some belief, some faith.
It has to start with trust. It has to start with belief only.
Yeah.
Correct. And see, after 5th standard, then if I progress and become an atomic scientist or something like that, maybe a day will come when I can perform that experiment myself.
Correct.
See, in the beginning of any field, so similarly in the field of spirituality, on day one, when people say, I will believe in God only when I see Him, that's stupidity. It's like a 5th standard boy saying that only if I see the experiment, I'll believe it.
Correct.
He will go nowhere.
Yeah. We touched this also briefly in the 4th chapter, I think. Yeah. To start with, you need some belief and faith.
Yes.
Have that really.
Yes. See, actually, in the Vedic system, what used to happen is, this in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, we are discussing about yagyas, etc. So when people perform yagyas for material things, these yagyas used to actually work like magic. I'll give an example in this connection. That in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, there's a story of a king called Chitraketu. So Chitraketu didn't have any offspring. And so he married multiple number of times with the hope of getting a child. But despite marrying so many times, he couldn't have a child. And so he was a little morose. So this king was extremely opulent, powerful. He had everything desirable. But the only thing lacking in his life was a child. So during this time, a king, a Muni called Angira Muni, he visits Maharaj Chitraketu and says that you seem to be very morose. What is the cause of your being so morose? The king explains that I want to have a child. And so Angira Muni tells the king that you perform this particular yagya, and the prasad that comes of the yagya, you give it to one of your queens. And when the queen accepts it, she will conceive, and then you'll have a child. And then Angira Muni gives this direction to Maharaj Chitraketu, and before he leaves, he tells Chitraketu that Harsha Shoka Prada, the child who will be born, will be a source of both Harsha and Shoka. Joy and sorrow.
Sorrow also for you.
Joy and sorrow both. So the king hears it. He thinks that, he'll be the child will be the only child of the king. So he'll be a little spoiled brat. But that's okay. I'll manage with that. It's better to have a child who is a little naughty than not have a child at all. So he kind of
disregards that
warning. And then he performs that yagya. And then the prasad is obtained. And lo and behold, the prasad, he gives it to one of his queens whose name is Kritadyuti. So Kritadyuti accepts that prasad. And when Kritadyuti accepts that prasad, she actually conceives. And a child is born. The king is totally attached to the child now. Because, the child is obtained after a lot of waiting and so much of hankering. And then he starts spending more and more time with the child, starts spending more and more time with this particular queen. And inadvertently, he ends up neglecting all other queens. See, all other queens feel so neglected. They feel that we are worse than maid servants here. King doesn't even look in our direction. So even though they weren't bad people, circumstantially, the worst part of them comes to the forefront. And they conspire to poison the prince.
Oops, I see.
By now, the prince is 6 or 7 years old. And they poison the prince, and the prince dies.
Oops, I see.
And then Kritadyuti, the mother, she is lamenting, in bygone eras, it's explained that it was unheard of that a child dying in front of the parents. The queen is in terrible lamentation, so is the king. And when king is really lamenting, at that time, Angira Muni, he returns.
Comes back again.
He comes back.
Joy and sorrow.
Joy and sorrow. The prince was a source of both joy and sorrow. And see, this is true with everything that is material.
Correct.
You experience joy when you get it, and in due course of time when it is lost, the same thing causes you misery.
Correct.
Not just in regard to...
We heard that, in the womb, the seed of misery is sown the moment you get that joy.
Yeah.
If you remember back.
Yes, we had discussed this earlier. So, Angira Muni now Angira Muni gives Chitraketu transcendental knowledge. Knowledge that is beyond the body, the knowledge of the soul, knowledge of God, and gives him mantras to chant so that he can attain perfection. See, Chitraketu, at this particular point of time, circumstantially, he is more open to hear the instructions of Angira Muni, transcendental knowledge. And he is able to place his faith in Angira Muni. Why? Because he has experienced results from following the instructions of Angira Muni previously. He had followed the instructions of Angira Muni by performing the yajna, and through that prasad, he had got a child in the first place.
Correct.
Through that, Angira Muni had gained the trust of Chitraketu Maharaj. And based on that trust, Chitraketu Maharaj now can put faith in Angira Muni regarding subject matters that is beyond his rationality and beyond his empiricism also.
Correct.
So in this way, see, we are discussing about yajnas, how yajnas create a selfless attitude in us. In addition to that, yajna performances also fostered people's faith in the Vedic injunctions. When they saw that whatever is given in the Vedas, they followed those paddhati and they got the results.
They got the material benefit.
And based on that, their faith increased and they put faith even in transcendental subject matters that are given in the Vedas.
Got it. Yeah.
See, even modern science works in the same way.
Yeah.
See, modern scientists, they have bought our faith, so to speak, by giving us material immunities.
Yes.
Maybe 60, 70 years ago, who could have imagined that sitting right here, you could hear somebody speaking hundreds, thousands of miles away. These are magic that modern science has created. And by producing magic in this way, modern scientists have bought our faith. They have bought our trust.
Correct.
So when modern science say anything, for example, Dr. Digrit Staple said something and people tended to believe it.
Yeah.
Because they have gained our faith by giving us material benefits. Actually, the Vedas also followed the same principle.
Yes.
But unfortunately, in the modern world, what has happened is, these karmakanda rituals which are mentioned in the Vedas, on the face of it, it doesn't bear any results. There's this, one of the temple presidents in our temple, his name is Radha Gopinath Prabhu. So he tells this story often, that one of his friends is a doctor. And his doctor friend, many years back, he invited him for inauguration of his clinic. And Prabhuji, he went to the inauguration of this particular clinic. And there in the inauguration ceremony, there's a huge yajna homa that was being conducted. So Radha Gopinath Prabhu was surprised. So he asked his friend, I thought you were an atheist. Why are you performing so many yajnas here for the inauguration of the clinic? So the doctor said, इतना पैसा खर्च किया है, अभी
don't take a chance with God.
रिस्क क्यों लेने का, थोड़ा ये भी कर देते. See, in the modern day world, people, they don't get really results from the yajnas. And it is followed just as a ritual. And why do people don't get these results is because the paddhati is not properly followed. See, if you follow the Vedic ceremony properly, first of all, the Yajamanas, Yajaman, he has to have the right intent, and the Brahmanas, the priests who are supposed to chant those mantras, have to be absolutely pure.
Correct.
And only when all these conditions are met, the ingredients have to be pure. The chanting has to be pure, flawless chanting by a pure person. When all these conditions are met, then only you will get the results. So, to meet these prerequisites is very difficult in the modern day world.
Correct.
See, very interesting. One of my friends went to a marriage ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And in the he knows Sanskrit. So, in the marriage ceremony, he saw that the priest who is conducting the marriage, he is
reciting some other.
He is reciting Shraddha mantras. Shraddha, you understand?
Yeah.
Those mantras he is chanting. So he told, the parents of the person who is getting married that, Shraddha ka mantra chant kar raha hai wo shadi ke mantra ke badle mein. And even the parents are saying, oh, karne do, jaldi khatam karke jaane do usko. So people are not really bothered what is being chanted, what is not chanted in the modern day world. So it's all ritualistic. So the point here is, because the yajnas cannot be performed properly and we don't see apparent results. And that's how people have little bit
lost their belief.
Yeah. But even in the modern context, in the modern day world also, there are different ways in which we can redevelop that trust in the Vedas. I'll give you a few instances here. A lot of things that are given in the Vedas, modern science has verified only later on. See, for example, in the Vedas, now, whenever there is a mention of Earth planet, Earth is always referred to as Bhugol. Goal is round.
Correct.
The Earth is always referred to as Bhugol, round. Now, the Vedic scriptures, they were compiled 5,000 years ago. Now, when did modern man come to know that the Earth is round? Which is more recent, isn't it?
Correct.
People used to believe that the Earth is flat, and then, Vasco da Gama.
No. Vasco da Gama started with the premise that it is not round, it is flat really. So I will go to the end really.
Yeah. And that's how the people came to know that the Earth is round.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a few hundred years.
No, maybe more than that really. Maybe 200-300 years old.
Yeah. So the Vedas have been saying that the Earth is around 5,000 years ago. Now somebody might say, how do we know that the Vedas were compiled 5,000 years ago? Now, to understand this particular principle, how old the Vedas are. See, in the Rig Veda and in the Bhagavatam and in many other sections of the Puranas, these Puranas describe an unusually large river that flows through northern India. The Rig Veda especially. And the Bhagavatam is mentioned that Vyasdev compiled the Bhagavatam sitting on the banks of this particular river. It's referred to as river Saraswati. It's so wide, it's explained in the Vedas, that in some places it is 12 miles wide.
I see.
That's how wide this river is. It's explained. In the modern day world, you don't see it.
So you don't believe it.
So the Indologists, when they first came to India, the Indologists, people who misinterpreted the Vedas, they were hired by the British to misinterpret the Vedas so that Indians themselves lose trust in the Vedas. See, the Britishers understood that we won't be able to comprehensively rule over the Indians unless we break their belief system. So they hired people called Indologists, who were Sanskrit scholars, and their job was to interpret the Vedas in such a way to make it look silly. So when the Indologists first read these descriptions of the river, they discarded it. Another part of Vedic myth, of Vedic falsehood, they said. They make up stories, they made up the story that there is a wide river in northern India, all these things, but where is that river, like that. But then, what happened was, around 1984, satellite technology started developing by leaps and bounds. And satellite technology started using satellite technology to understand archaeological sites also. And there was this French satellite called SPOT, S-P-O-T, it's an abbreviation. So this particular satellite, SPOT, SPOT, the French satellite, it discovered an unusually large river flowing through northern India. Through satellite imagery, they found out that there was a river that flowed through northern India, And the trajectory exactly matched the description given in Rig Veda, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, etc. And this satellite also predicted or kind of estimated that this particular river started drying up around 3000 BC.
I see.
And eventually it dried up totally, but it started drying up before around 3000 BC. So when this particular river Saraswati is mentioned in Rig Veda, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, etc., it is mentioned in the present tense when it was flowing in its full glory, which goes to show that these scriptures were written in prior to 3000 BC.
Correct. Yeah.
3000 BC means what? They are at least 5000 years old.
Yeah.
5000 years old scriptures. They're predicting so many things which modern science is coming to know more recently.
Yep.
At one point of time, scientists believed that fire, it kind of, no living entities can exist in fire. But the Vedas say, Sarvagata Sthanur, the Gita itself mentions the soul exists everywhere. But more lately, scientists have discovered fire bacteria, I've heard. Bacteria that exist in fire. So there are so many examples like this.
Yeah.
Say, the Jyotish Shastras, they mentioned that Kali Yuga. See, in the Vedic understanding, time is divided into Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga.
Kali Yuga, yeah.
So it is explained in the Jyotish Shastra that Kali Yuga is 5000 years ago, old. Now again, the Indrologists, when they read this, they said that another myth that they have created, that Kali Yuga is 5000 years old, like that. And it's also explained in the Jyotish Shastra, what is the exact time when Kali Yuga started. See, Ujjain, it has got a lot of significance from Jyotish Shastra perspective, the coordinates of Ujjain. So the Jyotish Shastra explain that standing in Ujjain, when you are unable to see any of the planets, including the sun or the moon, that marks the beginning of Kali Yuga.
Oh, I see.
See, basically, it's a planetary arrangement wherein all the other planets, including the sun and the moon, are lined up on the other side of the earth in a straight line.
Oh, I see. That's why you can't see any of them, really.
That's why you can't see any of them. And that's when Kali Yuga begins, Jyotish Shastra says. It's a very rare planetary arrangement now. Because, see, all these planets are revolving in elliptical orbits and in 3 dimensions. They're not
Correct.
in two dimensions. For them to be aligned in a straight line, it's a very rare planetary arrangement. This description is given. Nonetheless, Indologists, they kind of disregarded it, saying that another myth they have created to make people believe that, this Kali Yuga and things like that. But then, very interesting, now there are new software technology that has come up. Astronomical softwares. If you punch in the coordinates, it will tell you the dates also. So when you punch these coordinates into these astronomical software, you get the date at which Kali Yuga started. With 18 February 3102 BC. 3102 BC, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around 3000 BC. But the exact date of Kali Yuga, which is 5000 years ago, can be determined.
Correct.
See, there are so many examples like this, which builds our trust in the Vedas. So once we build our trust, then we can put faith in that section of the Vedas which is beyond our comprehension also. Because the subject matter of God is beyond our comprehension.
Correct.
To begin with.
Correct.
Begin with, we have to trust, we have to believe. And then as we progress, there is opportunity for empiricism, there is an opportunity for rationality also.
To reinforce that belief. Then.
Yeah, to reinforce that belief. But until that, we have to start with Shrunu, hearing.
Correct.
We have to first hear, and then we can proceed with that. And that's how Krishna is beginning this here.
So the importance of, I'm going to tell you now, here, is basically this, that you are hearing it from an authentic source.
Yes. Now, that is why Krishna is going to explain the science of God, the science of himself, and the science of the relationship with the Jiva, the living entity with God. And that's what Bhakti Yoga is all about. So to begin this, he tells Arjuna, hear. That's how it all begins, by hearing.
Okay.
Putting trust and hearing. So I think we'll stop for today.
Okay. Chaliye, pranam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Prabhuji starts by doing a recap of the 3 broad sections of the Bhagwad Gita. The first 6 chapters of the Gita talk about Karma Yoga. That is, how do you climb up the ladder of spirituality? The next 6 chapters talk about Bhakti Yoga. That is, what awaits us at the top of this ladder. The final 6 chapters talk about Gyan Yoga and explain the impediments that may restrain us from reaching the top of the spirituality ladder. In the last verse of chapter 6, Krishna explains that the highest yogi is someone who is always totally immersed and absorbed in him, with belief in him and with an attitude of service to him. To be immersed in somebody, you have to be attached to that person. Likewise, it is important that to believe in God and be attached to Him, we have to understand God. Krishna then goes on to explain the science of himself. We are told that there are 3 ways in which we gain knowledge. Firstly, through empirical evidence, which is directly recognized by our senses. Secondly, through the rationality of our intelligence, through analysis. Finally, through belief, when we hear it from an authoritative source and believe in it. Knowledge about God is beyond the understanding of our senses and beyond the comprehension of our intelligence. Hence, at least in the beginning, it is important for us to believe in Him when it comes from an authoritative guru. Once we start with the belief, we can always reinforce the conviction subsequently through empirical evidence and intelligence. We start chapter 7 with Krishna telling us that He Himself will explain the science of God and the science of the relationship of the jiva with God.